Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts. With that being said, let's get it. Okay, so we still got the puts on for TSLL. We're going to start with that. So it appears that TSLL is still having some trouble. The markets are still having some trouble trying to make a recovery right now. So we're going to hold off from buying actual TSLL shares. If it looks like we're not going to get a sign before tomorrow, we'll start piling in just as kind of a hedge against basically not being assigned the shares. So anyways, regardless, that's what's going on. We still have the two puts here. I doubt we're actually going to get assigned the 770, but we'll see. Market's getting absolutely destroyed, but our portfolio, unfortunately, is also getting pretty hammered. But that's standard, in pullbacks, these things are going to happen. So you just have to be willing to be prepared ahead of time. Anyways, so TSLL, we have the average share price of about $14 on these. We'll talk about this this weekend, but we have 800 shares as of right now. We have been buying, as you guys know, we got to the $50 a month on AIPI. We're now buying GPIC. So as of right now, the total share count that we have is 3637. This is a good quality ETF. It's been a solid performer over the years, and when the markets go back up, we think this is probably going to go up to like $55, $60, $70 per share. Just showing you the historical chart here, you can see it's been a good performer from 38 all the way to the peak of 50, and the dividends also do more or less increase over time. So if I were just to do and again, we're slowly buying this. We're not like aping in all at once because, again, the markets look very choppy right now, and we're not really sure what direction it's going to go in yet. So we kind of want to hold off from getting aggressive. But as of right now, we're at 15. We want to get to $50 a month. So you can see the buys right here that we took this morning. Obviously when it's cheaper, it makes sense to buy more, right? That's just common sense. You get more income for less money. I mean, with the grayscale trust, you don't get any income, but with these, you get something. So anyways, two different beasts. So just taking a quick look at the NASDAQ, it's still looking pretty brutal. It's pretty much oversold on every single time frame except the weekly, but it's getting pretty close on the weekly as well. You can see it's still oversold on the daily. EMAs on the MACD still pointing down, not great. The PPI came in cooler than expected today, which is good because it means inflation is going to come down. But it could also be bad because that means maybe the economy is cooling. Do I think that's the case? Probably not. It's hard to say at this point, but regardless, if Trump's going to convince Powell to cut the rates and the nation needs to refinance their debt at cheaper rates, well, the Fed funds rate is going to have to come down either way for both of those. And in order for that to happen, the CPI, PPI needs to come in lower so the Fed can be convinced that inflation is under control. They can finally start cutting rates. So stocks above the 250 are still going down. They're extremely, extremely cheap right now. I mean, it's ridiculous how cheap they are. For those of you guys that are sitting on cash, I mean, now may be the time to consider deploying at least some of it or a little bit of it. Again, I can't tell you what to do with your money, but we have been buying quite a bit. I mean, we've loaded up on over 800 shares of TSLO, bought a bunch of AIPI and some other stuff, and also we have been buying some GPIC as of lately. Pretty aggressive compared to what we normally DCA. So as for Bitcoin, I mean, Bitcoin's just doing Bitcoin. It's a question of, is it going to get, whoops, wrong one. Okay, let's go back up here real quick and take a look at Bitcoin. So this is the problem with having multiple screens up. Sometimes you just have to use a particular screen for a particular one. So I'll say this about Bitcoin, and we're waiting to see if it's going to drop below this low here at 77,000 and hit that 69,000, which again is on the monthly trend line, but it's also a major. It's where the previous candle tops were at, so it would make sense if it pulls back there. But as long as we don't get below the monthly trend line with a candle close and we pop back up immediately off of it, I would say we're good. So the question is, what's going to happen next, right? Maybe something to consider going into the future. So anyways, let's talk about the trust. So LTCN, it's in the buy zone right now, $7 to $8 for support. Previous flip zone, you can see back here. Targets I'd be looking at is the previous swing high for starters at 54, so about a 730% gain. BCHG, very similar thing. Previous flip zone, resistance, now turn support. So that level is 240 to 280 here. Targets I'd be looking at still up at 20 to 24 for the profit target here. So nice little 10x gain, not bad. 880% gain. HZEN. So if we get a candle close below here, I'd be looking at next level right around $2. Target here for from 8 up to 1050 on this one. That's still pretty good gain. I mean, that's about a 5x or so. I think that's more than realistic. So 430% gain here. ETCG, I'd be looking at the white line as support, so 7.25. That's probably where I think it's likely going to bottom out. Not a guarantee, but you can see there's really a lot of price action. Again, if you draw these lines left from previous swing lows here, it becomes pretty obvious where these levels are. But I suspect that's probably going to hold. But if Bitcoin goes down to 70,000, we might be having a different conversation. So 1850 to 20 here for the targets. 180% gain. And I'll talk a little bit more about Bitcoin towards the end of this video. So ETH, I would say anywhere between this 10.25 to 1550 just to be on the safe side. I'd still be looking at 72 as the target up here. So 630% gain, GBAT. So if it closes below this white line, which again is a major level, I'd be looking at roughly about $1.15 as the next level to potentially get in. 32 for the target. For worst case scenario, 2,800% gain, FILG. So a lot of crazy price action going on here. This one's actually quite hard to read because the wicks and the candles are just everywhere. There's no pattern here. They call it pattern day traders for a reason, right? Pattern day trader rule, PDT rule, because we look for patterns in the charts. Well, there's no patterns here. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that maybe the next level to look at is the top of this box here at roughly about $12. Target would be all the way up at the all-time highs for 400. So nice juicy 3,100% gain. GLIV, very similar thing. There's no real clear pattern going on here. So anyway, anywhere in between this 215 to about the 690 area in this green box as a potential pickup zone. The all-time high at 80s, that's what I'd be looking at. So, absolute worst case scenario, 40x return here, 3,500% gain. G-Link, and again, I didn't know if prices were going to get this low on these trusts, but it appears that maybe they will. So G-Link, it is kind of retesting these candle lows. There's a little bit of patterns going on here, but nothing to really go on too substantially. So 18 to 2170 for support here, and 220 as the target. Again, still roughly about a 10x move just to get to highs, so 1,120% gain. GSOL, this thing's getting absolutely smashed. I can tell you guys right now, we just looked at Solana, and Solana is not nearly as bad off as this one is. So I would say this one is actually a better bargain than Solana. Solana is actually still quite expensive looking. So but it could hold here at roughly about 10. You can see the swing higher, or it could go lower. It could go all the way down to these candle lows here, right around the $3 area. Kind of pick your poison on this one. So 80 to 115 for the targets is what I'd be looking at. Scenario number A here, 1,100%. Scenario number B would be 3,300%. So GXLM, if we get a candle close below this white box here, next level is going to be 2350. Targets I'd be looking at 58 to about 70 on this one for about 195% gain, not too shabby. Okay, so Mana, if for whatever reason we do get a candle close below this level, I am very hesitant to say it's going to bounce off this wick because there's only one wick here. I want to see more price action, and I'm not seeing it as of right now. It's possible we could bounce off of 550. That could always happen. I'm not ruling that out as a possibility, but I am not completely sure that's going to be the case. So next level I'd be looking at is down here at 345. The target would be all the way up here at 70 for the all-time highs, so about a 20x return, or about 2,000% gain. Zcash. So we broke below this, what appears now to be a distribution level. Again, it's really difficult to know whether any of these are ever accumulation or distribution unless we're sitting at the absolute low or absolute high. Even then, it's impossible to be sure, so we always have to wait for the confirmation move. So next level down here for the buy area is going to be about 205. You could even go all the way down here to as low as 150. Target would be all the way up here at 1030 on this one. So nice little 5x move, 419% gain. Okay, so last thing I'm going to go over here real quick is Bitcoin. So a lot of people are saying, well, I don't think Bitcoin's going to go any lower. I think it's going to bounce here. I mean, it's a possibility, but like I said, based on the technicals, it would make sense that we would come back and retest this trend line to go to a bigger move. And again, if we get a candle close below this, that's when I'd start to say, okay, yikes, maybe it's time to get out, because last time we got the candle close below the monthly trend line, what happened? We went into a bear market, and that first candle close below that trend line was the indication that that was about to happen. So as long as we hold that 69,000, we're good. And again, that is major, major, major support. Okay, we tested this thing as resistance for eons before getting that pop to above 100,000. And that was also the previous cycle's all-time highs. So this is very, very major support. If we get below that level, I would be very concerned. I would say, okay, maybe we are going to get a bear market early, and maybe it's time to get the hell out of the way. Or, if you're willing to hold your coins or whatever you have all the way down, that's up to you. But yeah, so anyways, there's that. Plus, also the other thing is to get some kind of large mid-cycle correction, say down to, from the highs down to 69,000. Is it painful? Yes. I mean, minus 36% on Bitcoin, that's not great. Okay, it doesn't feel good to get minus 36% on anything, right? But this is not really that unusual. Okay, for Bitcoin to do something like that before pushing to all-time highs, not that much of a stretch. Okay, this pullback in time we got minus 33%. I'll give you guys some other examples here. We don't have too many from the bear market lows back here, but I can show you guys some other ones. So this mid-cycle correction was absolutely insane last cycle. I personally experienced it myself. This one was way bigger than what we're currently seeing. Even if Bitcoin went down to 69,000, this one back here was still 20% deeper than what we would see if Bitcoin went to 69,000 and then bounced. Okay. So there's that. And then you have some of these other ones here. So this one right here was pretty ugly, minus 27%. This one was pretty ugly, minus 31%. And obviously you have your pandemic dump, right? This thing was just absolutely insane. It was like minus 60 something percent. Let's see, down here, minus 60, yeah, almost minus 64%. And even this little tiny thing right here, I mean, this was a sizable drop as well, minus 21%. And then the this was the 2019, even before the pandemic dump, it still went down another 55%. Again, very similar to that mid-cycle correction before eventually popping back up. Then you get your black swan, then we take off for the moon. So to go down to 69,000 wouldn't even be that much of a stretch. Again, I'm not bearish. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I just want to point out that the possibility of this is very realistic. It could happen, okay? So I'm watching the price action closely. I'll let you guys know what I think in the future based on the future price action, where I think this thing is going. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.